Welcome to Living Free. Today I am sharing a special Mother's Day tribute. I have my friends here with me. Welcome Miss Vicky Key, my friend Regina, last name Robinson, Rebecca Robinson, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
And Sharon, what is your last name, Sharon? Hask, and Regina Hughes. Welcome. Thank you all ladies for coming, and happy Mother's Day.
Well, thank you. Happy
Mother's Day. We want to share with you all because I was recently touched about the thought of mothers and homeless mothers, women who find themselves in homeless shelters or homeless. And we wanted to take a minute to just share our experiences as mothers and people who have cared for mothers about what it feels like to be homeless or be afraid of being homeless. We just want to start the conversation and be open and honest. Hopefully we can bless some people to understand that homelessness is something that is faced by many of us. But it's a real thing, and it's a real problem in America. And mothers are some of the people who find themselves homeless more often than you might think. So we just want to start off, I just want to talk to Vicky a minute. Vicky, I know your economical status, and a lot of times people who are wealthy or more well off, people don't seem to think that they might even have a fear sometimes of being homeless. You know?
Oh yeah, we do. And I'm not wealthy by any stretch, but I always had enough family support that I knew if even as a single mother, I had support for a while, and then, so I didn't really have that fear. But I too also took care of my mother when we did live with her, all my kids, and I was pregnant. And that was a lot of work. It was hard. It was a hard year for us to live there, and thankfully she sold the house to us, so I knew we wouldn't lose the home that I grew up in and my children could grow up in. But it was still hard to care for her. Thankfully, we had tremendous family support, but I know there are so many. I knew friends who did not have that support, and they would come to me, and it was really hard to watch what they were going through and empathize with them. So,
have you ever had experience yourself of just, I know you've probably never been homeless, but maybe a time in your life where you thought that might be a possibility and it might have been frightening for you?
I had a frightening experience because I was so ill. I had gotten ill for a year and a half. I had migraines every day for a year and a half. And I got so depressed and I was so sick. And I actually thought to myself that I would admit myself into maybe a psychiatric hospital just to get some help. And then I had a panic, like, I heard people never get out of them. It was terrible. And it was frightening that I would be away from my kids, and that's not right. That's abandoning them. And it was really terrifying. And we were financially losing it. We were thinking of bankruptcy. But then again, a family member helped out a little bit with that. And so yeah, it was rough. It was a hard year and a half for sure.
You made an interesting point, something that I've been noticing a lot. Not so much as that yours was a mental illness or something, but people sometimes don't realize just how much a mental illness can play into a person becoming homeless. A lot of people don't realize that it's our mental stability that keeps us in the positions that we are in. And if you lose your mental ability, then you find yourself in a situation where, before you know it, you could find yourself out of control, and you could lose everything that you have, and there you are. Now you're homeless.
And your children suffer, and thankfully I don't have that at all anymore. That's all gone. But it was that whole year and a half was very scary for me.
I can imagine.
And hard for the kids.
So what about you, Regina? Have you ever had the experiences?
Well, I've had a fear of being left alone. I have had a fear of my children being a burden to my children. And my background is a medical background. So my thoughts for myself was too, because I had an experience. I got sick. I broke my ankle, hurt my back. And a lot of times I was at home by myself. And I couldn't fix me anything to eat. And so I made sure that I did cereal, something like that, something I didn't have to really cook. But that made me think that I'm single, I'm by myself, I need to prepare a little bit better so that my children will not be burdened. Because right now it's a little bit different than when we were younger. They are pulled in so many different directions. And I know they mean well, but they may not have the opportunity to come by and bring mom something to eat, or come and check on mom, you know, because I have my mother still alive too. And I think sometimes she get lonely. Now I'm single and I get lonely, you know, so you can imagine other people get lonely and don't have companionship. And so my thing was that I thought early on when I was younger to save a little bit. And if I didn't have that savings, to fall back on, it would have really, I would have been out there. I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's totally understanding. Economics is always a major issue, and a lot of times the mothers that find themselves homeless are single mothers, you know, and we're single for a lot of reasons. Marriages break up every day. Me, myself, my homeless experience was based on domestic violence. I was a victim of domestic violence, and the day that I had my husband arrested was the day I moved everything out of the house. And I had to do it in one day. So that means that I found myself in a situation where I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go. And even though I had older daughters who did allow me to come live with them for a moment, technically I was homeless. So being a single mother or a divorced mother often leads you to a situation of homelessness. And that's a real problem all through our city, domestic violence, and it is a real problem, and it leaves women homeless more often.
What about you, Rebecca? Have you ever had an experience with homelessness or been afraid of it?
Yeah, I have. Early on, and this was early in my life, I know we had like a family home and everything was okay. My grandmother and my grandfather were the original owners, and there was 2 houses next door to each other, so everybody in the family always had somewhere to stay. They're passing away and not having the correct documents in order, or so they said, led us to be shifted from our own space and our own place with a sidewalk and our own yard to all of a sudden being thrusted into a rough area of town, you know, unknowingly about the lifestyle and the situations that come along with a close proximity of a rough neighborhood. So at a young age, I did experience homelessness, and from that point, I say homelessness because everything I ever known to be normal got changed in like 72 hours. Like I said, our own yard, our own backyard, our own porch, our own space, our own place, and we're just in this area where it's people all the time, it's loud music, it's this, it's the ambulance, the police, and it was just like a culture shock as well as feeling of being literally homeless. It was almost like in another land, so to speak. So from that point on with my mom, she was a single parent, so we didn't have like, I would go to my friend's house and I could see the marks on where they grew. You know how you kind of mark it off, and I was like, man, you know, that's got to be nice to come back and, you know, be able to see those things. But for us, living that lifestyle led to, of course, we want to do better. So now she has to make it where we can move from this neighborhood. So it was really more of a shifting, and it felt homeless that time. New friends, new schools, you know, getting adjusted all over again. So, and then to my adult life now, my own children, I've been out working now like 90 days. And it's just a miracle to be sustained that long. But when I tell you it's crunch time, it's do or die, after this, and I mean this being like next week, I need to get to work. I don't need to stop. I have to go. So yeah, the fear of being homeless is always there because you don't ever know. I got sick from a sinus infection, and it had me out work. When it had its domino effect, I've been out work 90 days, going on like 98 days, really almost 100 days. And when you break it down, you count the days like that, it's because it's that important. You know, it's not like I just got out work, I've been out for a month. No, I'm counting the days. It's in a critical state right now to the point of where it didn't matter if I didn't feel well right now. I still would have to go to work just to sustain. So yes.
Yeah. And it's something that you mentioned in that when you look at it, and I can definitely relate to, and that's, I guess it's kind of like an attitude of homelessness.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? For me, I didn't know until later on in my life that I had that attitude of homelessness because I grew up in foster care. So I never had a home of my own, a place where I honestly felt was my own home.
Yeah.
And throughout my life, I found myself constantly moving
Yeah.
from place to place to place to place. And it wasn't until later on in life when I gained some knowledge that I realized what my behavior was because of how I grew up. I grew up technically homeless. That place was never my home, so I never felt like I had a home. And all through my adult life, I moved and moved and moved and moved, basically living homeless, just like I was in my childhood. So you can have an attitude of homelessness too. And then my last guest that I want to talk to is, I just love her, Sharon. Sharon is the best example I know of a person who has had a mother and taken care, such great care. I remember watching you while your mother was alive, taking care of her. And I thought, I don't know if this woman realizes the strength that I see in her or not. For you to go through all of that. And I know sometimes, a lot of times when people are sick, they're not the kindest people in the world to take care of either. They can be very...
It can be hard, and it was hard. It taught me a lot about myself, what I could do. And if I had to do all over with again, I would do it, but I would do more for her. Because she was the main support of our family. My dad suffered and struggled with mental illness. So she was the main breadwinner and the main parent of the household. And we were always one paycheck away, or one job away from wondering if she doesn't have a job, will we have a home? And then when she got so deathly ill with diabetes and all the other ailments, she just really went down, and it was hard watching her.
I can imagine. But, and I wanted to do the same way because of people like you. As we get older, we find ourselves with much older parents, and pretty soon we are going to be the much older parents. And I think about the attitude of young people nowadays and where their attitudes are as far as taking care of their parents and how they treat their mothers. And I thought, we gonna be in trouble. Basically, at the end of the day, I'm thinking, we are in trouble. There are very few women or people left like Sharon who actually will say to themselves, that's my mother. And regardless of what she didn't offer or how much she offered, she was there for us. She put her last into taking care of us. She made sure we had a home. She made sure we had food to eat. She may not have done the absolute best that I thought, but she did it. And I'm thinking to mothers everywhere, I want you to know from all of us that all you had to offer is love, the best that you could give. And maybe that wasn't the greatest thing you had to offer in life. But know this, that your efforts to be a mother, to provide for them, to put food on their table, to give them shelter, makes you worthy of honor this Mother's Day. Thank you so much for joining us. I love all these ladies. You all are wonderful, and I hope you have a great and happy Mother's Day. And thank you for joining us here on our YouTube channel, Living Free. See you next week.